The next presentation is from Peter, Delta Bravo 2 Oscar Sierra, our chairman. And Peter will give us a first-hand update about QO-100 and what happened the last year and what is the latest status. Peter, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Matthias. Yeah, so will I get my slide here? I still see the agenda. Okay, so I will give a short or quick status update on QO-100. So I hope it will work. Okay, now it should work. Yeah, so, well, I would say we can talk about a success story indeed. So our SAL-2 QO-100 satellite was launched on the 15th of November with SpaceX Falcon 9. Then we had in January 2019 already, so it's quite a while ago already. We had the opening ceremony in Qatar to officially open the transponder for the general use. Indeed, beginning of January, even over Christmas time, we were already starting commissioning, doing some qualification tests on the transponder to see is it operating as expected and so on. Some of you may have seen that already. Even we started before moving to the final destination in the orbital position. So roughly we have more than 682 orbits, which is indeed equal to 682 days on Earth. Successful operation and actually uninterrupted operation of the narrowband and wideband transponder. So for more than 20 months already available to the amateur radio community. Also, since the launch, we have made several changes on the band plans. As you know, we have almost doubled the available bandwidth on the narrowband transponder to roughly 500 kilohertz. That was not a technical expand, it was more legal. We just changed the band plan and said, okay, now you're allowed even to move to higher frequencies in the band to actually use it. Yeah, Lila and Beacons, thanks to Mario and others for the work, are working flawlessly, operating from DK0SB directly from Bochum. So Mario will talk about that later on anyway. There have been some hardware changes, but I think the Lila beacons are very helpful, not only to find the transponder, but you know, there is this excellent software, SDR console and other implementations which use the beacon to stabilize the LNB or to the receiver basically. So the receiver locks onto the beacon. The beacons are generated on the ground, GPS controlled. So it was a nice way even to get stable receive without GPSDO or something sophisticated on the receiver side. The wideband transponders, the wideband transponder, which was actually not only planned for DATV, but it's mainly used for DATV activity. I think there's a lot of activity there. It's actually a surprise to see how many people are there operating, and it was a big boom for them as well. And people built hardware, power amplifier to get actually really nice transmission capability on the wideband transponder. So that is also, I think, very successful. And indeed, it is the first satellite, amateur radio satellite, where we have this DATV activity going on. Yeah, as previously already mentioned, our DATV beacons are uplinked from the SHALSAT ground station in Qatar, while the LILA beacons on the narrowband are uplinked from Bochum. It was planned to have everything from Qatar, but due to technical reasons, we decided to split it. Yeah, and it works quite well. So, like, never change a running system. We keep it like that. But next year we will also have some plans. So in general, I think we can conclude the transponder actually has an exceptional performance and sensitivity. All our requirements, which we specified even before the launch, which we agreed and worked on, they are, I would say, even outperformed. So the company Melco, which actually built the satellite and which also built our transponders at the end, made a tremendous job. So it is really a nice project, and it was also a nice experience for our AMSAT team to work together with Melco, with SHALSAT, and also lead the Qatar Amateur Radio Society. Yeah, you see here some pictures about that. That is actually, I have often been asked, can we have a picture from the satellite? Honestly, this is the only existing picture from the satellite. Yeah, before the launch, before it left, more or less before it left Japan. There are no more existing public pictures. Actually, this picture was taken from the cantina from SHALSAT in Qatar. So it's not a real, it's a photo taken by me. So, but in a public area, so we can assume it's a public photo. Okay, move on. Okay, so to continue with that, yeah, this is actually, I grabbed these pictures from Remco, PA3FYM, actually the right one here, because it nicely shows the footprint of OSCAR 100, but also how many contacts more or less you could achieve so far. So I think Remco is among the most active stations there. And I think meanwhile probably even more, but at that time he had around 380 unique QTH locators or stations locked in his book where he had contacts. We have more than or around 103 DX countries on QO-100, but you see there are still a lot of spots here, a lot of space to be filled with ground stations. Indeed, here is Antarctica. It's already on the map. Remco was also among the very few first to make a contact there. Yeah, then there's actually a page on AMSAT-NA site where they usually log the most distance records for various satellites, and indeed that's what was logged for OSCAR 100. It's a contact between Singapore and Brazil. So yeah, indeed, this is a virtual distance because it's more or less the distance on the Earth's surface, not going through the satellites. Then you would have to add another 30,000 kilometers or something. So far we are very, very happy to see there is a lot of activity. There could be more. And that is also part of the things we are planning in the future, is even to lower the entry level to make it even easier for people to become active on OSCAR 100. I think it is already quite simple. I believe we can honestly call QO-100 the easy satellite, even if it's using 10 gigahertz for downlink and 2.4 gigahertz for uplink. But I think a lot of users found out that this equipment is actually easier to get and to build than you might have thought in the beginning. And that was the reason actually why we have chosen those frequencies. because you have these LNBs from the commercial broadcast TV market, direct TV to home. You can use them modified or unmodified, whatever you plan to use, but this made the entry level for receiving extremely low and cheap. I think there is nothing cheaper than an LNB and an RTL SDR stick, for example. Uplink is more complex, but even so, we are seeing every few months, there's a lot of work going on in building more sophisticated hardware. So indeed, what are the highlights on QO-100 so far? For us, it's indeed, and I think not only for us, it is the station in Antarctica, Delta Papa Zero Golf Victor November. You see here Roman, I don't have his HB9 call sign, but he is working there. He is part of the overwintering crew, and luckily he is able to work with our ground station there, which was installed, as I said, in January, February this year. And so this is really a highlight for us. And yeah, even the penguins have some fun there. Yeah, so apart from that, we had several day expeditions seen on OSCAR 100, including one going to French Guiana, South Africa, and other rare places. And I think even portable operation on QO-100 is nowadays really, really easy. So we are seeing more and more of those de-expeditions. We would probably have seen more, but a lot of the expeditions were also affected by COVID. And even the one to South Africa, where Charlie will talk a lot later on, I think he also had some experience in getting home and so on. There's another interesting thing, more technical related. There were some, and that is what I really like. There was a successful experiment using this LoRa modulation by a friend in Austria. So he was the first one to try LoRa experiments on the QO-100 with very little power and basically only omnidirectional antenna on the ground. He was doing this from car, but it was still quite interesting. And then not long ago, that was also very interesting. A ham from Berlin area, he launched a balloon, actually a party balloon. And this balloon was only powered by solar cells at roughly 700 milliwatt of power. And that is what you can see on this map here. He was transmitting with this little power, but indeed with Olivia modulation and APRS over the QO-100 transponder. And we could even see the signal once it was almost close to China. So that was all the way here when it was in view of QO-100. The signals could be received even on the web SDR. So there were a lot of people tuning on the web SDR, kindly provided by BATC and AMSAT UK. And with the demodulator, they could actually also demodulate these APRS messages there. So that is an interesting project. I hope we will see more such things in future, because I think amateur radio is about low power communication and these kinds of experiments. So there's still a lot of room, even on the narrowband transponder, for such experiments. So yeah, this really gave us an enormous boost in the homebrew activities. And I hear this very often when I'm on amateur radio exhibitions, or even if you look through the internet, if you go through the various AMSAT forums and sites, there is an amazing amount of people really working on these activities, building homebrew experiments, building hardware, and doing experiments. There's so much hardware in different concepts, it's difficult to mention all of them. So I think it gave a big boost to the ham radio community, and it really is a big restart of homebrew activities. It's really fascinating to see all of that. Apart from all these hardware activities, which are also supported by our AMSAT-DL down and up converters indeed, we also see a lot of amazing software projects in the field of software-defined radio technology. So all the web SDRs, SDR console, Minitune for the ATV, new radio stuff, and it's fascinating. And there are a lot of people really thrilled. Okay, people more in the software than rather in hardware, but we see amazing things happening there. So this is really great. And I hope also that we see more of that in the field of narrowband, low signal, low power communication. We also see some scientific experiments. It was also quite amazing. Daniel and other people, they have been really, well, first of all, they put their equipment into really in the kind of state where you could really do Doppler ranging measurements. So they have been able to measure the daily Doppler shift. And yes, there is a Doppler shift on QO-100. It's very small. So in the area of plus minus 20 hertz or something like that. But this Doppler shift is due to the satellite is not 100% stable in its position. So it's always moving a little bit forth and back. There is a small variation in inclination. So it's not a perfect circular orbit with the same rate like the Earth. So there are some variations which cause some effects here. And even so, not only this kind of Doppler effect, but they have sometimes to fire their thrusters, their electric thrusters, to maintain the orbital position. And even in these measurements, I don't know if it was on this one, but you could sometimes see some little sparks here, which were caused by orbital maneuvers of the spacecraft. So it's really, really interesting to see these, the wiggle here. These variations, also temperature effects on the internal frequency stabilizations, all of this could be seen here on the variations of the Doppler. So that is really science which you can do at home or in the school class. So I think that is also an important thing of this educational part of our mission. So not only something for nothing selfish. I mean, we are doing here educational things, advancing the technology, hardware, software, but even scientific things you can do in the school class with your kids. So there's a lot of room for interesting things like that. Yeah, nevertheless, we have also, as I say, a very helpful and friendly community. For example, in our AMSAT-DL forum, but not only there are other forums, there are WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups. We are not in every group. That would be just too much time for us. We cannot handle all of them at the same time, but so most of us, we are concentrating on our AMSAT-DL forum. So it's also good to see that there are a lot of technical discussions and everyone tries to help the other. Okay. I hope that is the right one. For some reason, it switched twice. Yeah. There is some kind of misunderstanding which I want to explain more again. So there have been publications in the past in various magazines where it was stated, oh, QO-100 is nothing special. It's just a spare transponder, an unused channel which we can use now for ham radio. But that is completely stupid, because it is technically not possible. Not only because of the frequencies, because we have different uplink frequencies. We are on 2.4 gigahertz and not in the 10 gigahertz range where the usual commercial transponder uplinks are. But we also have different bandwidths. And not only that, we also have different architectures or concepts to manage our multiple user access. You know, we have this uncoordinated user access. So we actually needed some control of that in terms of an AGC, for example, and so on. So plainly spoken, on a commercial satellite transponder, you have fixed uplink stations, and there's a monitoring station, usually the one which is in Qatar. Even if they have an uplink from another place, the monitoring station is always checking the downlink power and uplink level. And if a station is having too much power on the uplink or not enough power, the controller basically calls the uplink station and tells them, hey, reduce your uplink power or downlink power to a certain level. So I don't know why it switched here. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I touched the board. So there they can just call the station and tell them, please reduce your power or change your power. And in the beginning, even they had a hard way to understand that we need some kind of AGC, because we, AMSAT, cannot call every user on the satellite to decrease or reduce the power. So main job of an AGC, but also indeed handled by Lila. So everything what you see here on the left side is custom made for AMSAT, and also the antenna. We have the wideband beam antenna. Yeah, I see Matthias is raising the flag. I'm over time a little bit, but I think this should be important. So you see also here the wideband beam compared to the commercial TV beam. So we have a wideband beam, so certainly it cannot be the traditional transponder what we are seeing. So on the outlook, next year we plan to upgrade the DATV equipment in Qatar. There is some activity going on Lila. We will also have some upgrade there. We also plan some activities with the Qatar Amateur Radio Society, with schools and students in Doha, universities, and having some kind of activities next year. But we had some activities this year we had to cancel, but so there's more expected next year.
Excellent, Peter. Thank you very much.
I think, is that the last slide? I don't know. It doesn't switch. I don't have control over the screen. Can you switch?
This is the last slide, I think.
Oh, okay, it's the last slide. Good. So anyhow, that are the current activities. There was a question on the YouTube chat regarding why we have the beacon 2 mega sample. Mega symbols per second. That is the correct wording. That is very simple. When we built the satellite together with cars and SR, that it is also used indeed for educational purposes, but for us it's also very important to show what we are capable to do. If we would switch the beacon to less than 500 kilobit or something, or kilo symbols, the quality would be bad compared to the commercial ones. And you see here in the back on one of those screens in the control center, usually they online monitor and demonstrate our beacon. And if that beacon is in bad quality, I think for SR that it would be even a little bit embarrassing. So keep in mind, this is not an AMSAT satellite. The satellite owner is SHIRSAT. AMSAT and QRS work together to make this project possible, but still we have to accept that, and I think we will keep the 1.5 mega symbol beacon as it is, because it's also part to show what we amateurs are capable to do, and that we can still somehow compete with commercial transponders. Okay, Matthias, I think that's it.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Especially also you mentioned that we are going to bring new equipment to Antarctica. So hopefully sometime early next year, when the crew is down, we'll also have some DATV transmission from DP0 Golf Victor November. And I think that will also be very interesting, especially for students when they will be able to talk to the Neumeier station. There's, I think, no more questions. You answered already one. There's one remark. The current locator count in terms of people being active on QO-100 is 426, so 426 different locators have been worked by Remco. So I think that's quite an accomplishment.